It's 4:44. Right on the nose, Tamian. You did good in timing.
Thank you.
Tamian I met Tamian at 1 o'clock my time at the restaurant. It was actually 2 minutes of 1 because I got in time to order breakfast because they stopped ordering breakfast at 1. They switched to a luncheon menu. And I'm not going to go into what happened after that with the people next to us.
Good.
From Canada, but we did pick up 3 new people that were watching the show.
We picked up 3 more people. Hello, ladies.
We didn't ask them their names. No, anyway. Let's talk about some things. I first of all want to say that I received an email from RJ, and RJ, I wanted to tell you when you wrote in your email to me, excuse me, or a letter to me, wanting to know how do you get to subscribe with my newsletter, and because you said you do watch the show. Well, you're watching our newsletter. The show is our newsletter. So we don't have a separate newsletter, RJ. You are watching our show. You live in Fort Collins, Colorado. Your initials are RJ, and you live on East Harmony Road. And this is our newsletter. You are watching. You are actually listening to our newsletter. So we don't have a formal newsletter like we did 15 years ago, or back in 1997. So that takes care of that one. Although you did ask me a question about Satan, about Edgar Casey, Bible reference. Anyway, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. So let's go into a different subject. Flight 370. Mariana asked me not to talk about it, but I have to say this. They thought that they went ahead and put a closure on it by telling the world it went into the Indian Ocean because they reevaluated a satellite. Satellite showed that they found remnants in the Indian Ocean, and they said, well, that's where they are. So 50 ships go to the Indian Ocean, and there's no debris there because it's not in the Indian Ocean. It is not in the Indian Ocean. And you share that with me, don't you, Tamian? Mm-hmm. That's not the Indian Ocean. Were you going under?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm still awake.
Okay. So it's not in the Indian Ocean, and they try to pull a ruse on people saying it's an Indian Ocean because they want to put a closure on it because they had so many people that were desperately wanting to find out what happened to their relatives, and it's not in the Indian Ocean, and they're not going to find anything there. So I just thought I'd mention that because it's kind of a comical that they're creating this ruse because they don't want to acknowledge that it disappeared out of the thin sky. And
I like Cobain's answer. I thought that was really cool about the aliens.
Well, it's true because
that was my second notion, either the parallel universe or the aliens.
It is the aliens because I saw the video. Did you see the video? Did I send it to you?
No, I haven't seen a video.
Well, there's a video that actually shows that they won't show you. That actually shows an unidentified flying object flying 5 times the speed as all the other planes on the radar. That goes right past the Flight 370. Then both Flight 370 disappears, and the identified flying object disappears also, which does coincide with what Corbana said, in that the plane was in very serious trouble, and that a alien ship went ahead and put it into a different dimension, and took it into another planet. And I believe that's what happened also. Mm-hmm. But anyway, people will think that we're crazy for having that belief. The news media makes fun of it when nobody mentions aliens or UFOs, so we'll leave it at that. But guess what?
We don't care.
Well, I do care, but it's not in the Indian Ocean. They're just spending millions and millions of dollars and creating media time. And it's going to go on and on and on. The mystery of 370. The mystery of 370. You'll be reading about it for the next 20 years. The mystery of Flight 370. I want to address some letters I got, emails. I want to address the email Linda sent earlier today. I wasn't quite sure what you're talking about, Illuminati and some of the other things you made reference to, Linda. Assuming you're watching and assuming you all read Linda's email. But I do want to mention, I'm not going to mention anything about the Dalai Lama. As Mariana and Tammy brought to my attention, it's some people's religious beliefs, So I'm not going to go there. But I do want to mention something about Alexander Ebon. I think Alexander Ebon thought that he truthfully had near-death experiences. Not one, but 6 or 7 in his book. Which is unusual. Most people have one, but he had 6 or 7 all within a couple of weeks. I think that's his illusion. I think that is his illusion. That's his reality. In other words, I think he was sincere. I think he is sincere. I think he absolutely truly believed that he had near-death experiences. And he writes about them and had a New York Times bestseller. And I don't agree. The part I disagree with is the fact that he describes heaven, which is not heaven. That is not how it is on the other side, where you go through muck and mire. Every time he woke up, he had to go through some kind of muck and mire. Everybody that's read the book, I ask him, you liked it? Oh, the book was fantastic. Maybe you believe in heaven. What was that muck and mire he was going through every time? I don't know. Do you remember that? He's going through.
I haven't read the book.
No. Well, anyway, the point is that I'm not calling the man a liar. I'm saying that's his illusion. That is his reality, that he thought he had these series of near-death experiences, and he wrote a bestseller book about them. And he's entitled to his illusion. We all have our illusions. I believe that truth is important, though, and my concern about his illusion is that he gave the wrong people that believe the book literally have a totally misconception of what heaven is like, because heaven, that's not heaven, he described. He described an illusion he had, where he was flying up in the air over villages with an angel holding his hand after he got through the muck and mire. So that's his illusion. I don't think the man's a liar. I think the man is not living, that's his reality, and his reality is not real, as far as being valid. Is that fair to say? Okay. So Linda, I don't know why you're upset at me. I think you said goodbye to the website. I think you said adios to us because of the Dalai Lama. I'm not going to go there. I promised Mariana and Tammy Ann before the show started I wouldn't go there with the Dalai Lama. But I did tell you, you got mad at me also about Eben Alexander. I did explain to you just now that that's his right and his reality. It's not my reality. And it's not the reality of most people who actually, like people like Echo Bodine, Sarah, and other people who have experienced being on the other side and know what it's like. And it's not, there's no muck and mire to go through. So Linda, I hope you don't leave us. I don't know why you're upset. Maybe you had a bad day. Maybe I said something that got you upset, but I apologize if I did. I didn't. I'm sorry you took it personal. And I wasn't trying to violate your religious beliefs. Randy, letter from Randy. Randy sent us an email. He's got this fascination with Hilarion. How do you pronounce it?
I'm not sure myself.
How do you want to?
I thought it was Hilarion.
Hilarion. Hilarion. A past life that my spirit had in the 4th century. And he says, before the conversion of Paul, called Saul at that time, persecuted Christians. This karma prevented Paul from ascending. Hilarion's soul later reincarnated as the great Saint Hilarion. Anyway, he's asking me about persecution of Christians that occurred at Saul. I've gone on record many, many times saying that Saul never persecuted Christians. First of all, there were no Christians. There were only Jews at that time who had accepted Joshua as the Messiah. That's number one. Number two, the word that should have been was not persecuted, was criticized. Paul was very critical of the original founders of what were the Jews that had accepted Yeshua as the Messiah. If you recall, both in the Messengers and in the Commitment, I explained in detail why Paul was upset. He criticized them, not persecuted them. He criticized them because, number one, they had created this communal environment where people could come and participate who accepted their beliefs and free food, where they all share their food and all their clothing and all their wealth together. And Paul said that a lot of these people are pretending they accepted Paul's teachings with Joshua simply so they could have free food and be able to say, oh yeah, I believe in you, give me my share of my food, give me your share of your wealth. In other words, there were a lot of people that were just pretending to accept the messages for the free food because they created a communist society, a communal society. The second reason was they told people who were donating their goods, their wealth, that God would punish them if they didn't give 100% of the wealth. It actually says in the New Testament that one family only gave half their wealth, and he said, God's going to punish you, and they died. That's a phony story. They didn't die. But the point was they were telling these people that God was going to punish them if they didn't give 100% of their wealth. And Paul objected to that. He said Joshua would never have used God as a threat, used God as a punisher in order to take money from people. They could have just asked the people generously to give from their heart and soul contributions to the new brotherhood. They didn't have to threaten them that God was going to punish them if they didn't give 100% of what they had, only gave 90%. And Paul just said it's wrong. It's inappropriate. God would never punish everybody. And that Yeshua would never have accepted they're using God as a threatening tool in order to accumulate money and wealth for their new organization. So Paul criticized them, but he never persecuted them. And I don't know why the church in the 4th century changed the word criticize to persecuted. As far as Paul, the stoning of Stephen, it is true. Paul was there when Stephen was being stoned. Paul didn't throw any stones. Paul was there when Stephen was being stoned. And he witnessed the stoning death of Stephen, and apparently that weighs heavily on his karma for not interfering and trying to stop them from doing it. And I just think that Paul probably felt powerless at that time. There wasn't much he could do because they were very angry at Stephen at that time for some things he said. They thought he'd been blasphemy, which was a very serious crime. One of the few crimes that you could get put to death in was blasphemy back at that time, 2,000 years ago, in the Judaic religion. Because the Judaic religion really didn't believe in carnal punishment, taking a person's life, but they did believe that blasphemy was one of the worst things you could do. In addition to a non-Jew going into a temple was blasphemy also, as well as having coins, Roman coins, with Caesar's picture on it in a temple, where they consider that blasphemy, is a violation of God's respect to God. And that's what blasphemy is. Blasphemy is a disrespect to God. Showing disrespect to God is considered blasphemy. That is what I think probably the translation of blasphemy is. If I don't know, but if you looked it up on Google, you'd probably find that's the case. So anyway, Paul never persecuted the Christians. He did criticize them. Do you want to ask my wife to take off her high heels?
You want to go up there?
Yeah, just tell her I'm on the air and ask her to take off her high heels. My wife is upstairs and we have little Fords up there. And Tammy's going to remind her not to wear high heels because it echoes off the floor. Oh, wait, for Tammy also wrote me a letter too, an email. In her email, she was talking about Paul casting, Hilaire and going out to the desert. You know, before the show started last week, she was asking me about Hilarion. And I said, she said, what was her life like in the 4th century? And I told her, was that my wife? Okay, thank you. And I told her that Hilarion, it was a very lonely life. I said, Hilarion, this is before she read the website that Vandy told her about. I said, Hilarion had to leave the city he lived in because he was doing healings, and he became so popular that he had zero privacy, absolutely zero privacy. And he ran off to the desert. And the people finally found him in the desert, and they followed him, and he tried to live as an ascetic, basically. And the people wouldn't leave him alone because they wanted healing. And I told Tammy that. I said it was a very, very difficult life. And I said that's one of the reasons why I'm living in Lake Oswego, I live a business life. I don't live my spiritual life in Lake Oswego. I try to be very, very nondescript, would you say?
Oh yeah, I had a word, didn't I? Under the radar.
I try to stay under the radar of my spiritual beliefs because I don't want to experience the same thing that Hilarians experienced, where all of a sudden you had people. Can you imagine, for example, if it gets out in the newspaper that I'm healing people in Lake Oswego, there'd be hundreds of people outside my door. I actually had a guy that drove down from Alaska about 2 years ago, drove all the way down from Alaska and banged on my door. No, it was more than 2 years ago because my son, we had a babysitter, and the babysitter opened the door, so my son must have been about 6 years old then. And this guy drove all the way down from Alaska, demanding that he wanted to see me, that he was Jesus. He said he was Jesus Christ. The point is that I try to keep under the radar here in Lake Oswego regarding my spiritual activities because I don't want to have the same experience Hilarion did, where he had to move out into the desert. And you discovered that information was accurate, what I told you, because then you went to that website that Randy said, where they described the life of Hilarion, and said that indeed he did go out to the desert. And you're right when you said that he casted out evil spirits and evil demons, and what demons meant was bad thoughts that he had that were inappropriate thoughts. So I want to go into the actual download that you did, Tammy, on. To tell us what prompted you, what motivates you to go through this download?
Linda had actually put this one on there. This was the first one. And I was just interested because I have a relationship with Nick, and I'm wondering where it's coming from. There's definitely a spiritual connection. I know we have one 2,000 years ago, but this one feels different, and so I've been trying to figure it out. So I went to the website and I started reading about he sponsors teachers of truth, religious leaders, and missionaries.
Hilarion did.
Hilarion did. So I'm thinking that's
what? Thinking what?
That's our relationship.
Yeah, I'm doing that now. Today.
Right.
Let's go back to this paragraph. I think let's start this paragraph. It says the Apostle Paul was one of Hilarion's incarnations, which is true. And by stages, Paul put on the mantle of his Lord, and accomplished many works as his instrument in healings, miracles, prophecies, and fiery conversions. I guess I want to relate that to my life now, because I am doing that right now. I am doing healings, which in a sense is a miracle because it intervention of God in people's lives. And I am talking about the great tomorrow, so in a sense it's prophesying. Then it says, the next sentence says, this was the true path Jesus Christ meant his apostles to walk. And basically, why don't you comment on that, because that's what we're doing on our website.
Yeah, he wanted, Yeshua wanted people to teach about love and compassion, and it just got into so much politics back then. It just got crazy. And so it's still crazy. People are still messed up. So
we're dealing with the same issues today that Paul dealt with 2,000 years ago, and Hilarion dealt in the 4th century. Because it says today, Hilarion guides students on their path of putting on the mantle of their higher selves to accomplish these works and more. So we could basically we could substitute Hilarion to my name. Could say that today Nick guides people, people on the site, to put on their mantles,
right?
Putting on their mantles of their higher self to accomplish their works and more and more. Then it says that his first incarnation was Saint Hilarion, being Paul's first incarnation, the 4th century hermit and healer who performed countless miracles. Okay, but now we come to this paragraph you mentioned. As an ascended master, Hilarion, I don't consider myself an ascended master, but Hilarion sponsors teachers of truth, religious leaders and missionaries, as well as those practicing the healing arts, scientists and engineers in all fields, musicians and those specializing in computer and space technology. Now, the amazing part about it, that's what I'm doing in my life.
Mm-hmm.
My granddaughter is, as you know, works for Raynor, and she's a space scientist. She's a rocket scientist. She does programming for rockets, lasers, engineers, scientists, healing arts, music. We got the music, doing the music and miracles. So basically, Hilarion sponsoring us to do what we're doing.
Yeah.
In other words, that part of my spirit that's still in the spiritual world, which is Hilarion's spirit, as well as Paul's,
Mm-hmm.
is basically encouraging us and leading us to do the things we're doing today.
Right.
Is that how you read that?
Yeah.
Expand on that.
I just think that's what Nick's doing, and because I've been thinking about it lately for a while. Like, okay, I've been living in my house since 1981. Nick's been here since 88. You said you built this house?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're 5 miles apart. I never even heard of the guy until 3 years ago, seriously. And I even worked in lumber yards. So he was out developing this neighborhood just south of the one that I live in, Westlake neighborhood. And so he's developing that, and we're in the same kind of field. I never heard of him. I never saw him that I know of. We live totally different lives, and yet here we are together. And I just find that kind of strange and like, wow, why? So now I'm thinking that he's my teacher.
Yeah, my teacher.
We're each other's teacher. I think we need each other.
You told me several times today to settle down.
Yeah, I did. He was pretty wired this afternoon. So.
I wasn't wired.
Yes, you were wired.
Okay. Next sentence says, he is also the eternal empiricist, talking about Hilarion, who brings the seeker to the initiative path spoken of by the Apostle Paul. Now, and it goes on to say, quote, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And he's concerned with helping atheists, agnostics, skeptics, and others. So Paul was doing this 2,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Hilarion was doing it in the 4th century, and I'm doing it today.
Right, exactly.
And it's my same spirit. It's my spirit in a different body.
Yeah.
Each time with the same mission.
So we need to get it right this time. We can't keep going on and on. We got to get it right.
No, but I'm looking at the words, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And how many times have I said that?
Yeah.
That the truth, you should live in truth, with compassion and love, and concern with helping. And I say to people, it doesn't make a difference if you're an atheist or agnostic or a skeptic.
Right.
So Hilarion was saying the same thing 2,000 years back in the 4th century.
Mm-hmm.
And through no fault of your own, you've been disillusioned with life and religion and have no other knowledge of the path of the individual to Christhood. And that's what I've been saying. Through no fault of yours, here I am, 2,000. Hilarion was saying that in the 4th century, and here I am saying to you guys, folks, and it's been in my books, and well, on the side, it's not your fault because you were brought up as a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and they taught you things which are not accurate. It was inbred in you.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result of that, you didn't get the true knowledge of the pathway to becoming one with Christ consciousness.
So we need to get it out there now.
So we have history repeating itself.
So we don't repeat this again.
Well, yeah. It says, Hilarion helps prepare souls to receive the Holy Spirit gift of healing. Now change that word to Nick. Nick helps prepare souls to receive the Holy Spirit's gift of healing.
That's true.
Yeah.
I've received several through you preparing me to receive the healing.
So basically, what they're describing, Hilarion is describing the life I'm leading today.
Yeah, he's probably guiding me the whole entire way to get out of that business world and running corporations and building neighborhoods.
Stop that. You got to make a living.
That's true.
It goes on to say that the ascended master Hilarion is the Kohan of the 5th ray. He embodies the qualities of healing and wholeness, music and science, and one-pointed vision, the action of the third eye, which I totally agree with. And he prepares us for the gift of healing. And I've told you, every one of you can be healers. I've told you you're capable of healing yourself. Just as Hilarion apparently was saying in the fourth, since apparently my spirit and soul, when I lived as Hilarion, was saying the same thing.
Right. And Yeshua is saying the same thing.
And Yeshua was saying the same thing also. And Paul was saying the same thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm being repetitious. I'm being repetitious over a period of 2,000 years. Saying the same thing in the first century.
Oh, well.
As Hilarion was saying in the fourth century as Hilarion, and I'm saying today as myself. The interesting thing here, I want to say, let me go on with this. It says the Apostle Paul, as Paul, Hilarion was taught Jewish law at the feet of Gamaliel, which is true. You read my book, The Commitment. Paul was being taught by the great rabbi teacher. Yeah. One of the greatest scholars who ever lived, it says.
I read that.
This training proved to be an effective preparation for his apostolic mission, in which he wrote letters, which Paul did, Paul did write letters, and delivered sermons through Asia Minor and Mediterranean for 30 years, which is all true. During the 3 years that he spent in Arabia, Paul received inner teaching from Yeshua in Jeshua's etheric retreat, or what is now known as the Holy Land. And that's true also. Before his conversion, and when they use the word conversion, it's not conversion, before he became an apostle. They really should say before he made a commitment, not conversion. I want to change that word. Let's start a swear. I want to change that word conversion to commitment. Before his commitment, Paul was called Saul at that time, persecuted Christians. No, criticized Christians. So I'm changing those two words. Before his commitment to become an apostle, Paul, who was also called Saul at that time, criticized Christians. He stood by and consented to the stoning of St. Stephen, and I acknowledged that earlier, didn't I? Who was the first Christian martyr. This karma prevented Paul from ascending, even in spite of his martyrdom, at the conclusion of his magnificent life as the apostle. Okay, so I carry that karma that I didn't step in and stop the stoning of Stephen. Then as Saint Hilarion, Hilarion's soul later reincarnated as the great Saint Hilarion, who died around the year 371 AD, and that he was a hermit and a healer in his life, which he was, which I was. As Paul was, Hilarion was, and I am now in this lifetime. All basically having just the same skill, same gift that God gave us. He was able to fulfill the healing mission he began as the Apostle Paul. He was able to balance the karma of persecuting, of criticizing Christians that he incurred as Paul. No, I'm sorry, I don't have any karma for criticizing Christians. Maybe for the stoning of Stephen, but not for the criticizing of Christians, of Christianity's teachings. But see, they're confused. They're talking about criticism. They're talking about the Jewish people who accepted Yeshua as the Messiah. They were not Christians. So I don't have to defend Paul's criticizing those people. First of all, they weren't Christians. It was Paul who founded the Christian religion 5 years later. So they got this a little mixed up here. Hilarion, you got it a little mixed up. Whoever your channel is got it a little mixed up. Do a little better channeling. Okay, gave me a shot in the stomach of that one. Hilarion spent 20 years in the desert preparing for his mission, which he did. And he cast out evil spirits, which means that he cast out thoughts that were inappropriate thoughts. Just as you pointed out, as I pointed out in the messages, evil spirits meant daemons, which daemons meant unclean thoughts, thoughts that were not good thoughts. And he healed thousands of people. And they wouldn't leave him alone. They followed him across the desert and over the sea. So empowered was he with Jeshua's mantle of healing or the conclusion of this life, and where he made his ascension. Am I going to have that same problem when I go down? We go on my Music and Miracles tour.
No problems.
I mean, in reference to what he had, the Hillarian did. They follow him across the desert. In my case, will they follow me across this?
I don't know.
Anyway, I want to go down to the last paragraph way down here. It says here that the Hillarian has a ray of music and the harmonies of inner. It says that I have the ray of music and the harmonies of the inner spheres of sound, which brings forth all creation. It's the key to the science of the spoken word, which can be used to heal, participate in the divine plan, and bring it to its physical completion and wholeness. And that's exactly what I'm doing in Music and Miracles. I'm using music, the singing of Robbie Brett and Rasha, Nadine Rashah. I'm using that music in order to bring people together so Sarah and I can do the healings and teach them the true messages. So we're using music as a key. It says here, is a key to the science of the spoken word, meaning that is the music that's going to bring people for the spoken word that Sarah and I are going to share under Music and Miracles, which we can then use to heal, which we will then use to heal people, to precipitate the divine plan, bringing it to physical completion and wholeness.
Right.
It all makes sense.
It all makes sense to me.
Would you explain that? Why it makes sense to you?
Because it's time. It's time now. It's sound and music is always bright. You know, they always say you hear the angels, you hear the music. It always has to do with music. Stonehenge had to do with sounds. It all has to do with sound. Healing, you can heal with sounds. So it makes perfect sense to put the music and the healers together.
It makes sense for us to go ahead and do the music, Music and Miracles.
Right.
And Tammy Ann agreed that she's going to become involved in it. She's going to help me doing the Music and Miracles because she lives only how many minutes to from Cruise Boulevard?
10 minutes.
She lives 10 minutes from where our offices are going to be.
Yeah.
And she read the
5 minutes.
And she read the article in the newspaper, didn't she? That said that we're buying the building on Cruiseway, which is going to be tell them what the article said, not the amount of money, but what the article says. It's going to be the headquarters for what?
For the Great Tomorrow.
That was in a newspaper article, wasn't it?
Yep.
That was the headlines. That we're buying a building that's going to be the headquarters for the Great Tomorrow. It's a big white building, and it's located on Cruiseway Boulevard. And Tammy Ann, you live how far from it?
I'm going to be driving right by on the way home.
Yeah. But you live 15 minutes from the building?
Not even, Nick. It's like 3 miles.
She lives 3 miles from the building, and she's going to help us do our Musical Miracles tour. 2 miles?
2 miles. I know the Mormon church is 1.5 miles. That's like 2 miles, 2.5 miles.
Okay. So she lives 2 miles from where our headquarters is going to be at the Great Tomorrow. And it was an article in the newspaper, wasn't it? Headline article.
Yeah. You showed it to me, and then like a sweet of paper.
So at any rate,
yeah, looking forward to it.
She's going to be helping us with our show. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, at the end of the show tonight, I'm not going to do a healing. I'm going to do a meditation. I'm going to do a meditation that's going to take you with me and Tammy on to my Eden. I'm going to take you really deep. I mean, really, really deep.
So we're both going to fall asleep.
And Mariana says that
She'll call and wake us up.
We're not going to fall asleep. We're going to go into a state of mind, into a very, very deep meditation. And I have to come out of it at some time to be able to, because that's how I go to sleep every night. I go to sleep every night.
You have to bring everybody else back up.
I know. I can't leave you in it. Because it happened to me. The very first time I did this meditation, I'm going to do with you today, I did it at a Unity Church in Salem, Oregon, which is the first time I had a public speaking engagement after the book came out. And the last thing I did was this meditation I'm going to do with you today. And in that meditation, I started to go off the stage, and the minister came running over to me. She said, Nick, look at your audience. The place was full. There was about 350 people. She said, look at them, Nick. Every one of them is in the trance, Nick. You've got to take them out of it. You put them all under. and I didn't realize it. And I went back up on stage and I took them out of it. So you got to go in very, very deep, those of you that participate. And all you have to do to participate is just follow my instructions. And I'm going to take you into a meditation. It's going to be really deep. And Mariana said she won't do it. She'll purposely stay out of it so she can call us on the phone if I go into meditation also and I can't come out of it. So can you believe it's 20 minutes past 4?
Yeah.
I want to get into some subjects about other subjects. You know, it's so important that you say whatever you really want to say in life. So many of us hold back what we really want to say. I don't. I have just the opposite problem. And Tammy,
Do you really, Nick?
Well, you do too. You don't hold back anything.
This is true.
You don't have that problem either.
You're prepared to drop to.
So many people don't say what they really want to say, what they really feel, who they really are. To be real to yourself. For we're often not really. Often, some people aren't real to themselves. Who are your real friends? You ever ask yourself, who are really my real friends, as opposed to the ones who pretend to be friends? Or how many people do you have that you pretend to be friend of that you really don't like? Because you're not being true to yourself. So many people are not true to themselves. I'm speaking to you. I mean, I'm speaking to you out there. So many are not true to yourself. But there's such a power in acknowledging when you're unhappy. It's power to acknowledge when you're depressed or sad, like you're without a hope. Because it's all energy. It's all energy, but it's negative energy. So many of you are carrying negative energy because you're not willing to acknowledge that you have the sadness in you and that you're just living the life with sadness and it's negative. And the only way you're ever going to release it is to acknowledge it. Is when you acknowledge the truth of how you really feel, and who you really are, only then can you go ahead and release negative energy. What do you think about that?
I think you're right.
But expand on it.
Well, okay, last week we did a healing show, and Nick did a healing for me, and I didn't get the results I wanted for some things, physical things, but I did receive a spiritual healing, and he's right. Once you're true to who you are, I have been way more grounded this week. It's the best week I have had on being grounded. And my mother told me last summer that I need to be more grounded.
So you did have a healing.
I did.
It wasn't a healing maybe of your little finger.
It wasn't a healing of my eyesight, which is what I was looking for.
Maybe you'll have that today, but the point is that
yeah, the point is I did have a healing. I've had lots of healings, and no, I definitely been more grounded this week, and I've been happier. And a lot of you know I love to fly, and I have just been flying all week. It's just been a great week.
She doesn't mean in an airplane. She's afraid of airplanes.
Yeah, I don't like airplanes.
She means she likes to.
I'm not afraid of them. I'm claustrophobic.
By the way, one of the things that's going to happen, a Hollywood person, she knows who he is. You've talked to him on the phone. His name is Steve Allen. He's going to do a documentary of me in Hollywood this year. They're going to do a documentary. And part of the documentary is they're going to want to be in the documentary people that received healings. So Tammy Ann has agreed that she's going to be in the documentary. And it's going to be an $8 million documentary, and we're actually going to go to the We're going to go to the Midi. We're going to go to Jerusalem, the Dead Sea. We're going to do some things on location. Sarah's going to do it with me also, and Tammy Ann's agreed to be in the documentary as having one who received the healing. And I want to say, there's any of you out there that's watching the show who've received healings from Sarah or myself, either in person or on the show. I want you to please acknowledge it on the site that you have received a healing. I remember some of you received a healing. I remember several healings that we received from those of you watching the site, because we want you to, we will fly you to Hollywood to do the documentary. Now, and so you can be in the documentary also, because part of the documentary will be people that received healings. I know Monica, who I got a healing from me. Now, she doesn't watch the show, but Monica received a healing from me. Not the Monica on our site, a different Monica. She lives in Portland. And she received a healing from me. She had cancer and she received a healing. I know 4 or 5 people in the Portland area that would be willing to be on, you being one of them. But we'd like to have more than just 4 or 5. We'd like to have maybe about 30 that at different times during the documentary, they would show a 30-second spot with them where they would say, yes, they had a healing. They would say what was wrong with them and how they experienced a healing. So if any of you on the site received a healing, I mean, really and truly, don't make it up. If you received a healing and you're willing to be part of the documentary where we would fly you into Hollywood, they have a 25,000 square foot studio, and they're going to make this documentary. We'd love to have you on it. But we mean sincerely had a healing, not someone that says, gee, I'd love to fly to Hollywood and raise your hand. But you actually had a healing.
Be true to yourself.
Getting back to talking about being true to yourself. And you cannot release negative energy if you don't acknowledge, first of all, by being honest that you have negative energy. And I'll tell you one of the ways to get rid of negative energy also. I've told you this once before. You can put your hands in front of you like this and spread the energy away from you, and it changes your, literally, I've had people, whenever time you feel anxiety,
I forgot about that.
Do it so they see what you're doing.
I don't think they can see it. Spread your hands out like you're pushing it away and out.
I would tell my son before a football game when he was all anxious and excited about the game, and he said, Dad, I'm all pumped up. And I said, okay, so I want to be calm. I'm talking about basketball, not football. I should say basketball. I want him pumped up in football. For basketball, I would have him do that. I say, I want you to go ahead and separate the energy. Go like this and separate the energy. And he'd say, God, it really works. Well, because there's energy in front of you. You literally can push the energy aside, whether it's anger, hostility. It could be somebody else's energy. Somebody is giving you a bunch of hard time, and you don't like the energy they're pushing at you. You literally can just put your hands in front of you and pop it and move their energy out of your field. Honest to God, it works. I'm not joking. It truly, I swear to you, it works. And those of you people that are watching on Justin, I promise you it works. Okay. Because, you know, negative energy, what happens is sometimes we plant our garden. We put seeds in the garden. Remember I said if you put an onion seed, it grows an onion? Sometimes we plant seeds in the garden, which is like writing a script for yourself. And 2 years later you say, you know, I don't like how it grew. I don't like what grew in the garden. So what you do is you have the right, when that happens, to go back into your garden and pull out those seeds, pull out the roots of those things that didn't grow the way they wanted to, and put new seeds in. Now I'm using a bunch of analogies for, you might have written a script for yourself, and it's not working. Your life's not working out the way you wanted to. You don't have the friends you wanted to have. You don't have the good health you wanted to have. You can go ahead and change that by writing a new script and putting new seeds into the garden.
Yeah, start over.
Do you like that that analogy?
Yeah, I do, because that's how I got that poem that came out.
Explain that. What poem?
The poem I put on the site.
How'd you get it?
Huh? Don't tell me to recite it because it just came out of me, and I honestly don't know that. I don't have it with me. About the garden, you were talking about it the week before with your granddaughter.
Oh, yes. So
I wrote it in my poem. First, I wrote about, you know, today's becoming tomorrow's. I told him there was a song or poem in that. What he said about how many tomorrows will it take for a great today. Yeah. So I started writing this poem last night, and the rest of it came this morning while I was eating breakfast. And I thought, wow, that's okay. I like that. Okay, now I know what you're talking about. And the seeds were God. You know, God's seeds. They're inside of you, and all you have to do is light them up and disperse them around the land, and they'll keep growing. Basically. That's true. You know, it's really important to understand that so many people live in a negative past rather than creating a new script or taking out the old seeds and putting in new seeds. One of the things you could do, and I talked about this about 1.5 years ago on this website, on our site, take photographs of experiences you had that are pleasant experiences, places you've been,
vacations you had, people that you love, your family members, your wedding picture, a picture of things that you do, and put it on. I know you're divorced now.
Things that make you happy.
She had a couple of bum marriages.
Successful things.
We won't go there.
No, we won't.
How about your divorce picture?
Yeah, there you go.
Not your wedding certificate. You put your divorce decree at the court date. You say here's your annulment. You're no longer married. Put that on the wall. Anyway, things that gave you pleasure in life, you can put on the wall in your home. You can put pictures, photographs of places you've been. Different times of your life, your graduation, your picture of high school, anything that brings you happiness and pleasant memories. It's so important that you only have pleasant memories of things you've done in the past you've been proud of. Awards that you won. You won an award for a spelling contest, or you won an award because of you got your team you played on won some championship when you were in 4th grade. It doesn't make a difference what it is. Pictures of you and maybe when you were a kid with your team, with your classmates, something that would bring a smile on your face. So every time you walk past it, you can look in the wall and say, "Wow, I remember that."
Yeah.
You said, what do I have on my wall?
That's what I have in my living room, my grandkids.
Don't I have my wall pictures of me when I played football in college?
Yeah. I have my family. I have my son and daughter-in-law and my grandkids.
No, right outside the door, don't I have pictures of me when I played football in college?
Yeah, you're a good-looking guy back then.
You're going to make me go get the picture. And there's pictures. Oh, come on, it was 50 years ago.
Hey, I was good-looking back then, too, so there we go.
Okay. There's pictures of me playing, there's pictures of me with some other politicians, some of the political figures. Why are you laughing?
Because the lighting just changed, and I don't know why.
It does that so often. The angels changing the lighting because we're ready to go into meditation.
Why did that happen?
Because we're ready to go into meditation.
That was flashing a little while ago, and I'm thinking, how is that flashing?
No, that's the reason why. They're telling me it's ready to go into meditation time.
Okay.
Would you shut off that light behind me?
Mm-hmm.
That does happen, by the way. The angels mess around with the lights. I had an angel just now shut off that light behind me. You saw her doing it.
Yeah. True story.
We're going to a meditation. I want to take you very, very deep. And to do this meditation, one thing you have to do is you have to close your eyes. I want you to literally close your eyes, because I'm going to close my eyes.
Maybe I should stay awake.
You can use your own discretion. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to shut off all sounds other than the sound of my voice. The only thing I want you to hear is the sound of my voice. If there's music in the background, I want you to shut it off. If there's other people watching with you, I want you to ask them to be quiet. I want you to close your eyes and just listen to the sound of my voice. I want you to envision in front of you is a stairway. And there are 10 steps. And you can see at the bottom of the stairway there's a forest. I want you to start walking down those steps. One step at a time. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. You're now ready to enter the forest. 4, 3, 2, 1. You're now at the edge of the forest. And you see a pathway. There's a pathway in the forest. And you can barely see on the other side of the pathway, at the edge of the forest, there's sand. There's a shore. And you start walking down the pathway. And it goes slightly downhill. And you're taking your steps, 20 steps through the forest to get to the edge of the sand. 20, 19, 18. You can feel the wind rushing on your side and the sound of the bushes and the trees swaying slightly in the breeze. 17, 16, 15 more steps, and you come to the sand. And you can hear birds in the background chirping. 14, 13, 12. And as you're getting closer to the edge of the forest, you begin to even hear that roar of the ocean slightly. 10, 9, 8. And the path is curving to the left now. 7, 6. And you're almost there. You're seeing the daylight from the forest. 4, 3, 2, 1. And you're now on the sand. And you step out into the sand. And you start walking towards the shore and the ocean. And it's a beautiful day. You look up at the sky, and it's totally blue. There's not a cloud in the sky. And you can see white seagulls flying, different species of birds flying. As you start walking down a slight sand dune in direction of the water. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Breathe deeply and slowly. I want you to breathe deeply and slowly. 3, 2, 1. You're now within 10 yards of the water line, and the ocean's breaking in front of you, and you turn to the left and start walking along the sand, and the ocean's to your right. The sun is feeling very warm and nice, comfortable. It's in the high 70s. The wind is blowing. You can feel the ocean breeze. You can hear the silent roar of the ocean on your right as you're walking along the ocean on sand. And you see off in the distance a person walking towards you. And you keep walking towards that person too. And you're breathing deeply and slowly. And you're at one with the sound of the ocean. You sense the beautiful presence of God all around you. And the person is dressed in white that's coming towards you. Like he's wearing a flimsy white robe. Almost like chiffon. And he's getting closer and closer as the two of you are walking in opposite directions towards each other. And as you now can make out the vision of the man, you see that he has long brown hair, slightly streaked with gold. And now you can make out his face. He's got a beard, not a long beard, medium-sized beard that is slightly pointed. And his eyes are blue-gray. And you smile and your heart sings because you know that person is Joshua. That Joshua has met you at your Eden. And as you come upon one another, you embrace one another. And you look into his eyes. And Joshua looks at you and says, my brother, my sister, I give you my love. And you can barely move because you feel the love of Joshua so strongly that you're almost paralyzed because you don't want to leave that moment, this second, because you know you're in your Eden. What question would you ask Joshua? You say to him, Joshua, Joshua, what can I do? How can I be of service? And Joshua says, to be at one with God, embrace universal love and universal compassion, and live in truth. He smiles at you, and your heart sings with joy. For you realize how special Joshua is, and how special he feels you are. And you take him by the hand. He says to you, walk with me. You keep walking in the same direction you were with Joshua, holding onto your left hand, while your right hand is closer to the ocean. And you're walking together step by step. And Joshua says to you, are you going to make a commitment? And you say, Joshua, what commitment would you like me to make? And Joshua says that you will live your life embracing universal love and universal compassion. And you say, yes, Joshua, I make that commitment. I will live my life embracing universal love and universal compassion. Joshua says to you, you can go now, my child. And he hugs you. And he kisses you on your left cheek and your right cheek. And you look into his eyes. And you're filled with love. And you turn now and start walking back up the sand dune. Back up the sand dune. The 10 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now you come to the edge of the forest. And you start walking through the forest to 20 steps. And now you're taking very large steps and you're walking very fast because your heart is filled with joy. Because you've been to your Eden and you've been with your brother Joshua. And now you come to the edge of the forest on the other side where you started. And you're ready to walk up the stone steps, each one at a time. 10, and going higher and higher. 9, 8, and you're starting to come out of your Eden. You're starting to come out of it. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can open your eyes now. You can open your eyes now. Okay?
Yeah. He gives the best hugs.
Jess, we did hug you. You felt his hug?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's 5:43. We've been together for an hour. And I don't know how many of you went to our Eden together with Tam and I did. I know I was there. I was there and I came out of it and I started to go up the steps, the last 10 steps. We could do a meditation every Sunday if you're willing to, unless you'd rather not. I'd like to hear from you. I'd like to have you post on the site. Again, I say to for anybody that I've offended in talking about, about Dalai Lama, I apologize. I apologize if I offended anybody. Anything I said about my believing that Ibn Alexander had his illusion that he's entitled to. And I hope that you won't leave our show. Linda, I hope that you will stay with us. I apologize if I said anything to offend you. I don't know what, it was a long, long time ago, many months ago. I talked about those two individuals. Randy, thank you for bringing Larry to our attention. I'm sort of still in a different space than I am when I started the show.
We both are.
Yeah. But I just want to say to you, I feel nothing but peace in my heart. Do you feel peace in your heart? Give me a hand. Give me a hand. Don't squeeze it. Just put it gently. Okay. Okay. Can you feel the energy? You okay? Okay. Dear God, would you please help Tammy on? She has an eye issue. Please help her with her eye issue, dear God. Let her be able to see, so when she's helping me with the Music of Miracles tour, she can see the papers, and read the letters, and read the schedule we're on, and know how she's going to help. Thank you, dear Lord. I'm still very mellow right now, and I probably will stay there for a while. I'm grounded, though. Are you grounded, Tammy?
Mm.
Tammy?
Mm.
Tammy?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Not really.
Okay. So I'm going to say goodbye to you now. But I do want to hear from you. I want you to send us an email and tell us whether you enjoyed the show, or how you felt about the meditation, or whether you had a healing that we could use in the documentary we're going to be doing. So, Mariana, please let us, I'll give you a call, Mariana, when I get off the show over to ask you if everything went okay. So, I just want to say right now, for all of you, God bless you.
God bless.
God bless you, and we'll see you next Sunday. God bless you as you continue on your journey. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.